Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast. Tonight, your hosts have a very intriguing episode prepared for you. Tonight, we're going to go over the alien assimilation.
You will be assimilated.
Whether you like it or not.
So brace yourself, guys. It's going to get wild and weird and maybe a little uncomfortable. What is going on, everybody? We had to take a week off. We missed being here together and hanging out, but we had a bunch of stuff going on that really kind of got in the way, and luckily everything's good and okay now.
I had a really good Thanksgiving.
Good. How about you, Wayne?
Thanksgiving was fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. Tonight's episode is a juicy one, guys. I know that we actually asked the community about this about 2 weeks ago, maybe longer, because we were planning on getting together sooner to cut this one. But actually having the extra time to kind of sit out there and simmer and get more feedback from the community really, I think, is going to make the episode a lot more deep.
Wow, it was pretty remarkable. Sometimes we'll put out these talk notes, over on our page, and we'll share it with the other groups that allow us to do that. And the response to this one was absolutely, otherworldly, right? I mean, it was just out there. We got so much feedback. I mean, hundreds.
So, yeah, there were hundreds of comments. So we're going to touch on those in a minute. But for the folks that are listening that might not be familiar with what we're talking about when we say the assimilation word, Ron, what exactly are we talking about here?
Assimilation is contrary to, the Star Trek analogy, but maybe it is. It is the belief that we have all been indoctrinated or slowly fed this alien possibility, I say, for a very long time. And it started with some of the first media, basically, right? Yeah. So, and then we've seen it get, more prevalent up to this day. And is it a way to, we've always asked, is it a way to prepare us for eventual contact or disclosure?
And the reason that we brought up this topic is because, I have a 11-month-old. He's actually going to turn a year next week, which is really cool. So I have successfully kept another human being alive for a year. But
everyone,
right, yeah,
he deserves it. Believe me.
I'm bowing. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I've noticed, because we created these kids accounts with Netflix and Hulu now, that there are so many children's shows that go back about 10 years is when it looks to when it really started moving from like a sci-fi action-y kind of show to like aliens are our space buddies and they're here to teach us things and make us smarter. And there's a few educational shows even that are, you're being taught by aliens. And, it's really, and my kid loves them. Like when they come on the screen, he's glued. I mean, this is like an 11-month-old kid. And for at least half an hour a day in the mornings when we first get going, he's eating his peanut butter and toast or jelly and toast, whatever. And he's fixated on these little aliens bopping across the screen, talking about shapes and colors and all that stuff. And so it got the gears turning. And man, was a community response insane.
Well, we asked a question, right?
Yeah.
And that's how all this started. Okay, so basically what I asked was, can you name some movies and TV series that featured aliens and ancient alien themes that you watched growing up? And we put this up on a lot of boards. It had a lot of shares. I think 14 shares from our original page and more from there. And a lot of people answered this.
Yeah, the community response was really overwhelming. We dropped it on a forum. We've dropped it on multiple Facebook pages, and we really didn't expect the kind of response that we got, to be completely honest, because we were flooded with response from all of you. And for that, we thank you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and we were probably more shocked to read that many of you were actually thinking the same thing,
Yeah.
that we were being fed essentially entertainment and ideas of extraterrestrial and extra dimensional existences from the 60s forward through radio, television, movies, cartoons, you name it.
Well, yeah. I
And
mean, and they even brought up the whole thing about the original War of the Worlds. So it actually goes back even
Yeah.
further, right? So
right.
yeah.
So one of the biggest questions we asked was, what are some shows that you found influential or that you thought were part of this whole equation? And man, that list was long, was it not?
Oh, that list was very, very long. It took a very long time to compile that data and actually put it into a list that I sent you guys. And here's the thing, I did not include it all because it's still coming through at this point. That's how popular this thing was.
Yep. So where do you want to start with some of the movies and shows? We already mentioned War of the Worlds, and
Yeah,
that
yeah. Well,
that essentially
um,
was the scary
mhm.
kind of world-ending sort of scenario.
Yeah, it was. And I think we should probably kick off with the heart of the modern UFO phenomena. We had the 50s, and look at some of the scary aliens that were there too. See, they were still scary, right? So we didn't get into the benevolent space brother stuff until the contactee movements. And that was more
Yeah.
toward the 60s. This is also when I believe ancient astronaut theory began, pretty much, right, in the 50s and 60s.
It
So-
was. That's when it started really gaining traction in
Right.
paper form.
Right. So we have tons of stuff out there that really hinted toward that kind of stuff. We saw comic books. We actually saw a few. I remember growing up in the 70s, and there was a couple of little like flying saucer type toys I've seen at yard sales and antique malls, UFO frisbees. So this was something that was definitely ingrained. We have, toy laser pistols, toy spaceships, big thing there in the 50s, the atomic age, right?
Well, with the toy laser guns and things like that, you're looking at Buck Rogers and Lost in Space and Star Trek and a lot of those retro sci-fi TV shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were all
Um,
kind of playing off of each other, right? Because Buck Rogers, a property, it was in from the 30s or something, right? I don't even know.
Right.
I mean,
Because Buck
just
Rogers
guessing.
started as a radio program.
That's right. It was a radio program. Then it made its debut into television later. But yeah, guys, this alien theme has always been a part of our entertainment growing up. It seems like, at least for most generations, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Wayne, what was one of your earliest memories of one of these science fiction shows that involved aliens and contact? It could have been violent and world-ending type scenario, or something that was more of a ally kind of Space Brothers sort of deal.
Well, the first one that I remember that growing up that I just had to watch every time it was on was Lost in Space.
Mm-hmm.
That was the show, until I was 7 years old. That was the show that then later came Battlestar Galactica,
Mm-hmm.
But Lost in Space was the show until I was 7 years old and experienced something new.
And just think about what Lost in Space also did with the prepping a generation for AI with Robot.
Good point.
Oh yeah.
Very
Robot
good point.
became a household beloved family icon.
Mhm.
And there's still collectibles out there that are produced today of Robot.
Mm-hmm.
And, it is still that beloved iconography there. And modern day, we're carrying Robot in our pockets. He's not handing us stuff yet, but, we have that kind of brain that we carry in our pocket, and most of us have in our hands right now.
Well, and then we all, probably you all, like me, we had, Sunday morning church, which was Star Trek.
Yep.
I don't know when it came on for you all, but it came on at 11 o'clock for me. So the few times we didn't go to church, that was church. If I stayed home with my dad because he didn't go to church, it was definitely, you were definitely watching Star Trek. But man, Lost in Space for me was just my show. That was the first time that I ever recall seeing, and the episode I remember the most, and I don't know why, but it was when the first time they pulled out those jetpacks, those cheesy jetpacks, and flew around, Dude, that just, for some reason, I was like, whoa. I remember seeing it, and it was just so cool. And, it was something so stupid, but it really stuck with me. And
yeah, that makes sense to me.
That was it. Of course, the green chick on Star Wars wasn't bad either. Or, I mean, Star Trek. Sorry.
The green chick from Star Wars wasn't too bad either.
Yeah.
He did it again. Yeah, he confused Star Trek and Star Wars, and I'm not responsible for that.
Too many green chicks, man. Too many green chicks.
Listen,
yeah, but when I was Kirk 7, could have been there, he both.
But when I was
Star Wars and
Star Trek, so that's
when
I
was 7,
no one was safe.
Star Wars was the stuff,
Yeah.
I'm more of a Star Wars fan than I am a Star Trek fan, and I probably lost a bunch of friends for confusing the two. But
wow, that's okay.
That's what happened. You're having a drink.
Another one of the iconic shows back in the day was that we kind of glossed over was The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Well,
there was a movie.
We did, and that's a very important one. But we also kind of glossed over the fact that remember now, this starts with, if assimilation is real, it starts a lot younger, right? So what about the cartoons, guys, back then?
If you really want to
Marvin the Martian.
Yeah, Marvin.
A big kaboom. The Jetsons.
The Jetsons, yeah.
You think about these. I mean, we were subjected to these strange things. What was the little green guy in the Jetsons? Even showed up.
What about the Flintstones?
He had his own show there for a little bit. He was in Scooby-Doo, but he was in all the Hanna-Barbera properties.
Yes, he was.
He was in Flintstones.
Yes, he was. They time traveled. If you remember, they introduced
a time-traveling alien.
That's right. He was. Gazoo, right?
Yeah, Gazoo.
The Great Gazoo, I believe was his name. I can't remember.
So we have all of this in cartoons, and then we've got these big, major blockbuster movies that started taking off in the 70s and 80s. And one of the most iconic is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Well, yeah. And Close Encounters kind of knocked it out of the park, didn't it? I mean, before that we had Battlestar, and they had the Ancient Astronaut theme there. That was very, very heavy, obviously, if anyone watched it. And then we had Buck Rogers, which also in its very last days of its last season went the same way. It went to the Ancient Astronaut kind of thing, where they were seeking out these lost colonies of man. And then we had Star Wars, and then we had, of course,
Flash Gordon and
but
Master.
but we had Close Encounters, and Close Encounters was something completely different, wasn't it? That's what I'm trying to get at. It was like we had these campy little series and kids shows, but this one,
well, they were either campy or they were very horror oriented, like The Thing or Invaders or Body Snatchers up until that point. And then all of a sudden, there's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and it completely changed the dynamic of a extraterrestrial or alien type movie.
Yes, it did. Yes, it absolutely did. There will always be those horror type movies from Hollywood, but this one was always rumored to be a lot more too, right?
Well, and one day I definitely want to cover Close Encounters on its own show.
Oh, it needs to be.
It deserves its own show just because of all of the alleged
Speculation.
realities that took place.
Mm-hmm.
Even to the point, where I'm not sure how many people realize this. I know one of the people in our community posted it recently, and it was that Dr. Hynek was actually in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, not alleged to be in, but he himself actually made a cameo in the movie.
Yeah, I remember actually seeing that at one point. It was like, wow, that guy looks just like him. And, later on learning, oh, that was him. So not only do we have Hynek in there, making an amazing cameo, we have this, the main scientist there that's based off of Jacques Vallée. And they are speaking about the same things, guys, that the researchers were talking about at the time. And
it
they
was
still
very
are.
cutting edge, and everybody thought that it was just made for TV, or made for screen rather, not necessarily TV, but that it was made for like entertainment value. But that was actually what the ufologists of that day were studying.
Yeah, it is. And you know what really got me though at the time? Close Encounters
that?
didn't have flying saucers, guys.
No,
it was bright lights that moved in these weird patterns that up until that point, no one had really did that. Okay. Every time we saw a UFO on the screen, it's, ooh, spooky theremin sounds and it's flying over. Right. But not this. This was amazing. It was lights like you had never seen, which is exactly what witnesses were reporting, by the way.
Yep.
It was movement that we had never seen. These ships do. If you remember, the actual big ship, how it traveled sideways and then set down. Do you remember that?
Yes. And that was right out of Bob Lazar's leak.
That's what I'm saying. So there was a lot of stuff in there that in hindsight we look at and we're like, what in the world what did we watch? What were they subjecting us to at that point? How did they know this? And like you said, this deserves Close Encounters gets its own show at one point.
Yeah, when did that come out? In the mid 70s, late 70s?
It was late 78 or 76, right?
I think.
Let me check. This is a fact check. We got to check this one.
Yeah, I was thinking it came
77.
out
I was
1977. Close. Okay, so it came out the same.
76.
That came out the same year, pretty much as Battlestar, then, right?
Yep. And then what happened shortly after? Directed by the same Steven Spielberg that gave us Close Encounters. He had this movie on his docket that was supposed to have been a horror type movie, and it got scrapped because some people say that researchers and people in the government, which is highly speculative, basically said, no, don't do that. We need a friendly, kind of encounter movie,
E.T.
which we're then given E.T. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct. And
sorry, I found you sharp, but I knew I just was like, oh my God, I remember reading something about that.
Yeah, and I actually I follow Rick Baker, and Rick Baker is the guy who designed E.T. and all that stuff, and he posted up the story of that back in October, about how it was all changed and how they were moving forward with this creature that was going to be like terrifying and kind of mean and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, like, no, make it friendly. And so he had to retcon the 6 previous screen models and come up with what we know today as E.T. And that movie came out whenever I was a little guy, and I was obsessed with that movie. I would waddle around the house and just chanting "E.T. phone home, E.T. phone home," and just run through the house.
But amazing movie, and you're right, they turned friendly, didn't they?
It did. And Close Encounters was a friendly-esque movie. I mean, it did show some of the PTSD type reactions, but overall it was a feel-good movie at the end. And then E.T. was a feel-good movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it became less about abduction and more about contact at the end, didn't it?
It did.
Uh, well, we have to look at these things, and there was that period of time, guys. It was magical, wasn't it, for these type of movies from '77 on forward. So you had '77. What was the big thing then, guys?
Star Wars.
There you go. And
Bingo.
that's exactly right. A New Hope, and it was
No, no,
well,
no, no. No, it wasn't A New Hope then. It was just Star Wars.
it was just Star Wars. It became A New Hope afterwards. That's correct. Yes,
So
See, I
with
redeemed
Star
myself
Wars,
from the earlier mix-up.
he did. He redeemed himself
you
there.
have.
Accept me back, Star Wars people.
Yes.
Accept me back.
They'll accept you back. So '77 we had Star Wars. '78 we had Battlestar. 79, 80. What do we have there? Does anyone remember? Close Encounters came in '78, right? So yeah, I mean, look at this. These just came in piled on top of each other. Alien, alien, alien. We're not
Yeah.
alone. We're not alone. We're not alone. And wow. Okay. Does anyone remember the movie? What was it called? Hangar 18.
Oh yeah, Hangar 18. I remember that.
That's another one. And did you really think at the time that that was something real?
No, absolutely not. But now, well,
Yeah, right. Exactly. So there was all of these. I mean, just read a couple on that list.
But you know what we didn't mention way
What's that?
back in the 60s?
Go ahead. Yeah.
And man, did he ever use that a lot. The Twilight Zone.
The Twilight Zone. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
there was
that-
a lot
right.
of reference and stuff in there, to aliens and
In odd types of
otherworldly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That show was almost, when you're young, was scary. I
Well,
mean,
it challenged you.
yes, exactly. But to a young kid, whew, I remember having to watch some of those with my dad, and I was like, man, can we change the channel? Because some of them just were freaky.
Oh yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, they touched on it a lot in that.
So we had this, but now we're going to get back into something that was a little more dark, maybe, kind of, sort of, in the '80s.
Yeah.
Maybe. One of my favorite ones next to Battlestar would have to be V.
V, yes.
The beginning of that movie had me right at the beginning of it. The first, just that shot of that ship, Wow.
I had a crush on Diana, the head lizard.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even like snakes.
Listen,
Eh?
I don't like rats either, but I could have changed my tune for.
Right. Diana was pretty hot. I'll give you that. That's yeah. For a lizard.
But that took us back to the us versus them.
It did. And it also took us to an alliance scenario, which was an amazing concept, that these aliens will wait now. They're not all bad.
Then talking about the alliance concept in '88, we had one of my favorite movies, Alien Nation.
Wow. Something that was so far ahead of its time that I
Wasn't
can't
it?
even, yes, I don't even know how that existed. And I don't know how we watched it the way we did. And because it was good, it was really good. And it was like, it drew you in, didn't it? I mean, you really
and
started
it
caring
was one
about
of those
these.
shows, or it was one of those movies that spurned a TV show. It was that good.
Yeah.
And the TV show ran for a few years, and the TV
Yes.
show was just as good as the movie.
Which is rare.
We only had that, I think, with one other series, and that was Stargate.
Yep, I agree with this.
Stargate was awesome. So
Yes.
loved that.
But
Another
then, let's bring up Stargate.
Yeah, let's bring up Stargate because boy, that was something. Again, you're seeing this ancient alien contact kind of stuff going on, but this time there was a reason for that. Von Däniken was actually consulted for this one,
Right.
so
And it held both
wow, did it?
the alliance and the war.
Yeah.
It took it in a different direction. Instead of being it's an us versus them only or an alliance only kind of movie, it was very much the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing, and I'm going to partner with this group of subjected people who are humans, but they're alien humans technically because they're not on Earth. So it's a human colony on another planet, and go against this domineering race of super beings.
Which we know today, by the way, that was based off the Anunnaki, right?
It was, yeah.
So,
it was based off the Anunnaki and a lot of the
amazing.
Egyptian god lore.
Yeah, the symbology of it all was just amazing. That, it's a 10-season ride, and it's an amazing thing. It actually spun off several other series. Were okay. Atlantis was good, and again, it stuck with that theme, didn't it? The ancient,
It did.
that Atlantis was actually a ship, which is pretty remarkable. And then it ended with that one that I don't even pretend existed. What was it? Stargate University or something? I don't know what that thing was called.
Yeah, that was just
terrible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's terrible. Didn't happen.
So back onto the alienation thing real quick. That series really pushed a lot of boundaries. It pushed a lot of the racial boundaries that existed at the time, but it pushed what I consider real racial boundaries, which is, we are one human race. That's how I see us.
Mm-hmm.
Real, like a real racism, if you want to use the word in a truest form, would be the human race, and then a literal race of beings from another planet, dimension, wherever shows up.
Different species.
A different species, and they're here. And how do you integrate them in? They can't go anywhere. What do? Do you enslave them? Do you integrate them into society? Do you make them the bad guy? Are they bad people? It asked all of these really, really difficult questions and forced people to think really introspectively about themselves as you watched this movie.
No, it really did. It made you ask a lot of questions. It was a very powerful concept, wasn't it? And like I said before, you really got to care about those characters. You cared about the plight of those aliens, and then you realize, well, wait, these aliens aren't so different from us, and I think that was one of the cooler things. But what was really cool about Alienation was that those aliens that did arrive, they were refugees, right? Like you said.
Yep.
So they were not this far superior technological, powerful thing. They were just refugees trying to get away from a bad place, and it was just such a weird concept, and it was just a fascinating concept for me. I really enjoyed that movie.
Well, isn't that what Superman is?
Well, yeah.
It was very, very reminiscent.
Yeah, but Superman's kind of,
the aliens from Alienation were technically super powered. They were way stronger than humans. Their bones were more dense. They were a lot more durable. But
saltwater killed them.
Yeah, saltwater killed them. So okay, let's move out of the 80s a little bit here.
Wait a minute. There's one movie that, and I don't know how you all feel about this one, but I thought it was a cool movie. I thought it was because it was more like the aliens, like you said, being our friends and helping us, and and that was Cocoon.
I forgot about Cocoon. No one mentioned Cocoon. No one on those hundreds and hundreds of people who responded mentioned Cocoon, I don't think.
Well, in the forum, I actually did have somebody say Cocoon 1 and Cocoon 2.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, they should get a prize. That's really a rare one.
Wait a minute. Cocoon. Why do they get a prize?
Because they're not you.
Yeah, you're held to a higher standard, Wayne.
Oh, is that what you're going with? Yep. Sounds like there's a little bit of some kind of ism going on there against me.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you speak very clearly and don't have an accent at all. That's why, Wayne. That's why we have it out.
Well, yeah, we got to be using our accents. I forgot about using our accents.
I think it was a Cocoon.
God, I forgot about using
funny story.
I forgot to do that, and I'm going to do it right now for him.
I figured it maybe was because I hadn't had a stroke or something.
Dang old.
Oh no, it's not that at all. It's something completely more ridiculous.
Oh,
So
didn't
this was
know.
really fun. Just a little side note for everybody to fill you in on the joke. We had somebody that wrote a review for the show, and we've now had developed a really good relationship with this person, and they talk a lot on the page, and they engage with everybody, and it's really fun.
We're
And
talking about you.
that's right. But their biggest complaint was that one, I did mess up the I-77, I-79 back in the Indrid Cold episode.
Yeah, but
I'm
you
a
know what?
local
You know what
and
though?
I
She
confuse
called you.
those.
She called you on that.
Yeah,
She called you. She owned you on that.
I'm a local to that area, and I have in my 35 years never gotten that right. I always mix the two up because they split right near where I live, and it's all right there, and it just I don't pay attention. I just say I'm headed to Parkersburg or I'm headed to Clarksburg. Um,
It's a miracle
because
we arrive at any
we call it
shows
the
ever.
because we call it the Parkersburg Clarksburg split, and but then on top of that, we didn't have any accents, y'all. Which I know that I've got an accent. It's subtle. It might be subtle to those of you who are from West Virginia, but Wayne can tell you, being from Indiana, that I definitely have an accent, and so does Ron.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
it
I say the
depends on
word
if you
collar.
want to wear a color shirt or a collar shirt.
Yes.
Ooh.
It's the
He
in West
owns
in,
you, son. He
I
owns
know.
you. He
In
owns you.
Appalachia, they're the same, okay, guys?
I should win a
Collar and collar.
prize. I should win a prize.
All right.
Usually win a prize.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
let's get back.
sidebar's over. Let's get
Sorry
back
about that,
into it.
guys.
Let's get back into it. So,
So anyway,
uh,
Cocoon was a good movie. I really
yeah,
liked
it
Cocoon,
really was.
and it was more of the friendly, we're your friends. We're here to help you. We're here to show you something new. We're
And
not here to take you over type of
the
movie.
movie was so good, and man, the aliens were so low budget.
Wasn't
Mm,
that a Ron Howard movie?
It was,
yeah,
I believe
yeah,
so.
yeah. Opie directed that.
Way to go, Opie.
Yeah.
Way to really phone it in on those glowing aliens. They could have
Yeah.
looked so much cooler than those creepy boo people.
But
But it was good.
that wasn't the focus really. I mean, it's
It
weird, but
wasn't.
that wasn't the important thing in the that it wasn't the graphics or the
It was
costumes
the
or anything.
story. This
Yes, exactly. The story was fantastic.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
it really was. It was a very endearing story, and then again, it was an early contactee kind of story, and it was a feel good story with the
Oh,
contact
oh,
experience.
you're saying contact. You're saying contact. So that's going to
I
bring me
am.
up to, one of my favorite ones, which actually was, we can't say that it was a original. It wasn't original at all. It was based off of Carl Sagan's novel, right? So it was just an adaptation of that. But in 1997, Contact,
Yep,
and wow, what a concept that was, right? So now
it
we've
really was.
yeah. So we've really, thanks to this and Stargate, and now our minds are starting to open up to these other possibilities of travel.
And
That's
a few years earlier, we had the X Files make its appearance.
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And you can't forget. I want to believe that is ingrained in everybody's mind.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
You hear that it's actually my ringtone on my phone is that the introduction whistle, that do 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 do. I can't go any further without getting sued.
That's
But
right. I was going to tell you. Yes.
and but X Files was fantastic, and then Contact came out,
Mhm.
and then we get into probably in what is in my opinion the largest contributor to what we are calling the assimilation of pop culture to extraterrestrial life,
Third Rock from the
House
Sun.
of Mouse.
Oh, sorry.
Third Rock from the Sun. That's what you're saying,
Yeah,
right?
Third Rock
I-
from the Sun. That was
that was a good one. That was a good one.
comedy.
And shout out to Alf. We passed Alf.
Yes.
We did. My first
Mork. Good Lord.
My-
We
Oh,
my
passed
first
yeah.
Mork.
pet's name was Alf.
Was
Alf
it really?
Alf was my buddy.
Do you
I
know
loved
how?
that show. E.T. and Alf. I was fixated on those,
Oh
man.
yeah, I love that. Do you know how Mort got onto Happy Days? You know how that came to be? Little
No.
side note.
No.
Um, the producer's son or director's son wanted. He said you need to have some kind of character on there that's like an alien or something. Just was blah blah blah. Because he found aliens and spaceships and all this stuff so cool. So that's how Mort came to be on Happy Days, just to
Wow.
satisfy his son. And
That's
look
funny.
what happened.
It spurned its own show and gave birth to Robin Williams' early career.
Yeah, one of the great
Wow.
minds.
Yeah.
And so back to the House of Mouse. And for those of you unfamiliar with that term, we're talking about the Big D, Disney.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I'm glad you clarified.
They this is a theory that goes back decades, guys. That Walt Disney himself actually was in cahoots with the US government to roll out extraterrestrial footage and extraterrestrial and UFO material in his parks, in the productions, in everything that they do to help, well, assimilate the pop culture world and get the general populace somewhat indoctrinated with the concept of sharing our world with another life form.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron, I want you know more about this one than I do, and I'd rather not have another bad review
No, well,
because I
it's
misquoted
okay.
something.
We're okay to
Uh,
have bad reviews now. I mean,
Hey,
it's kind of cool.
listen.
it is good. That means people are paying attention,
It
and we
means
appreciate
people
it.
are paying attention. So,
Any conversation about us is fantastic.
That's
yeah, well,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So
we're assimilating them.
explain explain the
Yes.
Disney relationship with the U.S.
Well,
government. This is alleged. We're
the
not saying it's there,
alleged.
but it's
There,
alleged. Wink,
it's
wink.
it's only alleged, and the allegation is that they were approached to make a film. And I don't remember the years. I'm not going to go quoting it. I have it here somewhere. I'm not going to look it up. It's, you know, we'll find all the links for you and let you follow those. But it was alleged that they were contacted by someone in government to make a film, and they were given footage. Now, what's interesting about this footage, and this is really weird because it kind of plays into what's going on today. What is weird about it is this footage was said to be a landing at a air base. Okay. Now,
We're gonna draw some
before
parallels here, so brace yourself, guys. It's
before
coming.
yeah, it's kind of a weird one. But before this project got underway, they had shot some stuff, and before this had got underway, that footage was taken back, from what I understand. Um, and then they were left with this half finished project that they just shelved. Okay, so nothing happens with this footage. Sometime around the 1990s, 1995, they get the idea they're going to have this ride, this experience. We're going to call it extraterrestrial alien encounter, and that's going to be in Walt Disney World in Orlando. So it opens in 96 or in 96 or 95, I think is when they opened it up. I can't remember exactly, but in 96 they released this promo for it. Now this promo only showed in a select area, and it only showed one time.
And it
And
was 8 seconds. 8 seconds of footage were included in this promo.
yeah, but no one knows what that footage was from or whatnot. But the main thing about this program, this promo, was that it was a actual, full production like movie kind of, which was really weird because here you are promoting the show, but in between these clips of the show, or show, not the show, promoting your ride or your experience or whatever this attraction was at the time, and between all these little clips and telling about how cool the experience is going to be, they're interviewing abductees, guys. They're talking about real landings and sightings, and they're going over the whole UFO thing. And I got to tell you, I've seen it, and it's pretty spot on. Okay. Now, some think that little bit that they use there, uh, that some of this was what they were actually going to use in that earlier production, minus the good stuff, so to speak. But it was really good. I think Bud Hopkins was actually on that, honestly.
Yep.
Um, Fascinating. Just an amazing, amazing one. But so remember the alleged footage that was taken away from this. So we hear about this footage again later on, that this footage exists. And, to me, it was like, well, this is just conspiracy theory,
Well, the footage was taken away. The U.S. government did pull the footage away, but they didn't pull the footage that had already been duped to go into the documentary. So everything that was actually had been up to, I think it was three quarters of the way finished before it was, you know, slated. The three quarters of the film was ready, and it contained actual classified footage, and 8 seconds of it was of which was in the introduction of the video. Actually, what's funny is I just watched this the other day, in doing some research for this, and I saw that 8 second clip, and they played it over 3 times in a row. And Bud Hopkins, they had a recording of Bud Hopkins talking in the background, and he was actually, they were interviewing him back then about the production. And there was another gentleman who was the director that actually directed the film, and he was talking about it, and he was talking about the footage, and he said, oh yeah, that 8 seconds was real. They didn't take it back, and they didn't remove it from the film. They just left it. When they came to collect all the footage, they just took the camera reels themselves. They didn't actually take the movie. And so he had a hold of this footage, and it was the Holloman Air Base landing.
See, I didn't know that was actual.
That's
new.
It was 8 seconds of of footage from Holloman Air Base, and it's daytime footage, and you see this silver thing just lower itself down through the sky and past the mountains, and that is actual footage.
I've seen that, but I did not know that was actual.
Yep, and I heard it from the director's mouth. He's, I believe, passed now.
Sure,
it was a recording.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll have to find the link for that. That's
yeah. I'll post a link in below. It was on a documentary that I watched the other day.
That comes into play with this whole thing with the recent film, The Phenomena, right?
Yes.
Because that's one of the things that that's the big amazing part of this is when Harry Reid says, I'm telling you, he's asked, about this Holloman landing footage, or this footage that they had, and he's like, he stopped him. He stops him right in his tracks, and he says, well, let me guess, it was never seen again. And then he starts to talk about something else, and then you see him go back to the whole thing, and are you saying this was for real? And he says, I'm saying, that the American people don't know half of what's going on, or something to that nature. I mean, I'm not going to quote it exactly, but basically, yeah, it was real in a, tongue-in-cheek kind of way. I'm answering that question, but I'm not answering that question. So here's this Holloman landing thing again. I thought we buried it a while back, but no, it keeps coming back up, doesn't it?
Yep. And so that was Disney's first real engagement into that kind of media. Now there was a few alien characters in their cartoons prior to that, but it really escalated after this alleged involvement. It started to ramp up, and a lot of the kids' movies now contained aliens, and none of them were big scary ones. They were friendly, lovable, you're my buddy, I'm here to teach you kind of scenarios.
Yes, it's true. And that can be seen as these were the beginnings of disclosure, possibly.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we were looking at that point. And yeah, again, it went right back down the line. Like you said, they went, to the source. They went to the young kids and tried to, put stuff to where they would be more interested in it, right? So
Yep.
you're gonna have these alien characters start coming and showing up into your stuff, and one of them was in 2015 they did Miles from Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland is their big futuristic
Yeah.
thing that they've had forever down there. So they decided to make this little cartoon, and you're thinking that's just about this space family. No, it's about ancient aliens. It ends up being about ancient aliens and mankind's attempt to contact them and learn from this federation. I kid
And
you not.
don't forget Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch, one of my favorites. Yeah.
And then there was a ton of other kids cartoons that was coming on around that same time on Cartoon Network, which was there was Invader Zim was on Nickelodeon, and later moved over to Cartoon Network. Then you had Tripping the Rift over on Cartoon Network and the Comedy Central. Fox had Futurama. There was Lloyd in Space. And then when you start getting into some of the more like little kid stuff, you had these things like the Flugels, the Fixies, Alien TV, which is one of the ones that my kid watches all the time. And then most recently, it just came out the week before
I know
Thanksgiving.
what you're going to talk about. This is an amazing film. Okay, you told me about it. I had to go see it.
It came out on Netflix the week before Thanksgiving, and it was called Merry Xmas. Okay,
now,
it is.
Okay. This blew my mind. All right, I mean, he calls me up and he says, "You gotta go watch this. You gotta see this. It's about aliens." I'm like, okay,
Or sorry, I think it was Alien Xmas is what it's called.
Yeah, I think I can't remember the name. We're gonna have to find the exact name of it. It's.
I'll grab it real quick.
Yeah, grab it real quick.
And it was put together by a guy who actually works for Disney.
It was from a book, right? The guy wrote it like there's a book, because it says at the end of it, it's based on a book by.
Yeah, it's Alien Xmas, and Jon Favreau was the one that put the film together, and it was based on a book. If you don't want to have this movie ruined like completely for you, because we're going to talk about it somewhat in depth, pause right now, go watch it, and then come back and go. It was about an alien race that used to be colorful and full of life, but then they depleted their planet. And when they had to leave their planet, they became gray. So I'll give you a guess at what these aliens look like. You're already probably putting it together in your head now. But then these aliens show up to Earth. They're going to steal all the Christmas presents, and then it flips around. They experience love. All of a sudden, their color starts coming back. Everything explodes, and everybody's happy. And it's suddenly this big, human, elf, UFO, everybody's friends, and everybody's helping each other out movie. And essentially, the aliens wind up calling Earth home. And they're assimilating themselves into our culture at that point.
Well, they join the elves, right? I mean, isn't that how?
Yeah, they do. They join the elves, and they become part of Santa's elf team.
But what's great about this movie, you're thinking, oh, that's the plot from The Grinch. Okay, it's not. This is really an original take on this concept. I mean, that book was written in 2006. They made this year, okay? I mean, Let's think about this, guys. Let's think about this for just a little bit. And what is really great about it is at the end, when they say, and that was the first alien elf Christmas or something to that nature.
Yeah.
It's like, so they've always been with him is what they're saying there. The elves have always had the aliens. Yeah, that's where the flying sled came from, so to speak. Yep. That's how it can move as fast as it moves. They explained Santa tech with alien tech.
No,
they did.
And have you not seen the commercials? It's Red Bull, son. It's Red Bull.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. Well, that's what they should have used. But no, it's a fun little movie.
It's a really good movie. It's a good wholesome family
So
movie too.
so
It's
wait a
something you
minute.
can watch with the kids.
So that same director, John Favreau, also is the director of what?
The Avengers, Star Wars,
The
um,
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. He's done Iron Man
Yeah.
and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
and very involved with Disney. Okay, so
Yeah,
here we are with
exactly.
the House of Mouse again.
Hmm.
And this wasn't a Disney flick. This was just something that somebody who was deeply involved with Disney
But
produced.
you see where his thinking and his mind is in a lot of movies.
You do.
And when he can create something, he's going, "Ooh, I like this kind of movie. I like this kind of storytelling." And it all involves some kind of aliens of some sort.
Yeah, and man,
And thank God for him.
we have covered just a brief section of what was given back to us. We had compiled our own list, and then we also included some of the references from the community that they shared with us.
And two that we
And
missed. Can I just intervene, two that we missed? And
Go ahead.
sure, go for it.
I don't know if they were set on the list or not. Um, but way back, and then it was incorporated into Scooby Doo, which was Space Ghost, right?
Yeah, Space Ghost.
Space
Yep, that's right.
Ghost.
That was the late '60s when that started, I think. And
Well-
then the other one is on Saturday Night Live, Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, gee. The
Oh, yeah,
Coneheads. Wow.
So some of the other ones that we've left off that had honorable mention was the MIB
Mm-hmm.
Independence Day, then American Dad, Ben 10, Alan Strange, then Alien News Desk. There's so many shows on here that deserve honorable mention for doing their part. We just don't have time to cover them all. There are that many. We only covered a fraction, guys.
But it
literally
shows, doesn't it? Doesn't it show, though? I mean, really,
It
can you
does.
not look at this and say, and I've been saying this for pretty much, I don't know, 30 years, and people used to they'd laugh. Now they're not laughing too much. They're not laughing too much at all because we have seen this, and it is a slow, progressive assimilation to the idea that we are not alone and that we may have never been alone.
And it's been on our TV, it's been in the movies. It's a constant reminder of what Ron just said. And the reason we wanted to cover this episode now is because we feel that it's a very timely episode, because the current world events are exploding with
Well,
extraterrestrials,
but
literally.
we had planned this before this. That's the
We
funny
had.
part.
This episode has been planned since October, guys. This has been on our list to do. And then we decided, because it was going to be one that we were going to release after the new year, just because there was so much content. But we hurried up and we did our research and got it all together and compiled the episode for you guys, because
Galactic Federation?
the Galactic Federation that was mentioned by the Israeli space chief, former Israeli space chief.
Former.
And we've got not only that, but we have so many other phenomena revolving around UFOs and UAPs and whatnot currently in the news. Be they hoaxes or be they real, they are very prevalent and they are grabbing all of the mainstream attention.
Yeah.
And we know that some of you guys out there who are more serious researchers and who've been into ufology for a very long time, you may disagree with some of the stuff that the Israeli space program chief may be saying, and you could use the translation issues as a scapegoat, but that's just in his book that those translation issues occur, because he wrote the book in his native tongue, not in English. But when he gives interviews, he's able to, phrase his language into English. And if he is quoting his book and he is quoting facts, if he is indeed quoting facts, oh boy.
Well, even if he's not, Joe, we've opened a Pandora's box now, haven't we? Because it's there. Now we have to look at it and we have to say, well, now, what do we do with this? Well, we can make jokes about it and we can laugh and we can giggle like they did for the first couple of days until it started showing up on, mainstream media, in papers, all around the world,
Yep.
And now they're not laughing. And I think I've said it multiple times. If you've been watching me on any of the groups, any of the forums that I post on, I've said it. It's turned from laughter to a nervous chuckle.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what it's become at this point, because we don't know. We don't know if he's, is he telling the truth? Is it part of a disinformation thing? Don't know. Not going to call it, but I am going to tell you this. Is it plausible? It is highly plausible based upon everything that we have heard. And one of the sources that we heard it from, Stanton Friedman.
Yep. Stanton Friedman actually spoke with us directly during a weekend conference that Ron and I were at. Wayne was actually there too. That was actually where we met Wayne.
It is where we met Wayne.
That was our very first encounter with Wayne,
and I've been trying to assimilate you ever since.
Close encounter.
And that was a contact all of its own.
Yeah.
And but Stan actually had a conversation with us, and this was 2 weeks before he passed away. Okay, guys. So this was a big deal for us. And he had this conversation with us about things that were going on. And Ron asked him, now that you're officially retiring, who should we go to rather for this kind of research, for this level of integrity and this level of competence? And he recommended another good friend of ours, Stan Gordon.
Yeah.
And but some of the stuff that Stanton was telling us about the Galactic Federation and him believing that there was this, I don't want to say cabal, but this group of intergalactic beings that basically don't want to get involved with us because we're too destructive. Mm-hmm. And they try to just mitigate our problems and keep us from destroying ourselves.
Well, now that right there is one of the key things, isn't it?
It is.
That whole trying to keep us from destroying ourselves, because that's one of the claims that he makes, is that they have intervened in preventing nuclear war on this planet. So anyway, straight from the article itself, the Jewish press speculating that Ashid 87 may have gone to insanity and beyond goes on to unspool his tangled web, which claims the involvement of President Trump in interplanetary diplomacy. And these are his quotes. Trump was on the verge of revealing alien existence, but the aliens in the Galactic Federation are saying, wait, let people calm down first. Ashid, who helmed Israel's space security program from 1981 to 2010, reportedly said they don't want to start mass hysteria. They want to first make us sane and understanding.
Okay,
let that sink in, guys.
We got to move on, or I'm gonna start getting political.
We're gonna no. We're gonna let that go just for a little bit, because like you just said, let that sink in, because we have to be sane first and understanding. Now, they didn't say we're not going to reveal ourselves. They said we have to do these things first. He goes on to say, they have been waiting for humanity to evolve and reach a stage where we will generally understand what space and spaceships are. Okay. Well, how have we been learning this, guys? How have we been learning all of this?
It's all been through entertainment.
It's all been through entertainment. Every bit of it has been through entertainment.
Now, something that backs up all of this, if you've been paying attention to the Wildmoor Talk page, guys, there was this time when the president went over to North Korea to speak with Kim over there, when he was getting real trigger happy with the nukes.
I think they've all forgot this by now.
Yeah, this was 3 years ago, and so much has happened between now and then. But
there was a time when we were literally at the brink of the Cold War again, right? Isn't that
absolutely.
how it was?
And the way it was diffused, according to the North Korean dictator, was that the conversation that he and President Trump had with the officials was some real intense science fiction type stuff.
Now, we don't know what that means, but in light of the fact that Space Force was formed shortly after that,
yes,
and then all of this, I mean, do we have to really draw a picture? I mean, assimilation is, in my opinion, if there's anything that we can prove, it's assimilation. We can prove assimilation, in my opinion.
I think so.
Whether
and it can be to varying degrees that we can prove it, but it is something that you can actually draw a map of.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, there's a definite progression there, and whether Rashid is right or if he's if he's lost his mind, I don't know. But I'm not going to throw tomatoes at this guy. Not until I hear more. Got to have more data either way before I get on board with him, or before I start saying, nah, he's out there. Because if we keep saying, nah, they're out there, you can't listen to that. No, that's just this or that's just that, without having actual data and actual proof in our hands, we're no better than a believer who looks up and says that Mars is following them.
It's true. It's very true. Well, guys, I think we have covered about as much as we have time for. Again, thanks everybody for listening in. Give us your feedback over at the Wild and Weird UFO Paranormal Talk page on Facebook, and give us some feedback over on the Wild and Weird Radio Facebook page. You can just search up Wild and Weird Radio, will pop up. You'll see our logo. But give us some feedback on this episode's header, and let us know what you think, because this is a conversation that we really truly need to have. We're not just asking for feedback on the episode. We want to talk to you about this topic because it's important. We really feel that this is something that is it's out there. It's something tangible. And we want your opinions, and we want to know what you think as well. And you never know, we might just do a part 2 of this episode where we cover some more of the events that have taken place to kind of get us used to and possibly normalize the existence of alien life. So,
hey, Joe, I'm going to stop you for a second and ask you a question, okay?
All right.
Now, I want to know what your prediction for the next year is, because we made this prediction last year and we are about where we said we would be as far as
aren't we?
Contact goes, or supposed contact. Okay, so in the lights of aliens,
this is coming from somebody who is not like a strict or super devoted ufologist, whatever, researcher.
No, he tells me I'm full of crap all the time and I have to prove my stuff. After I prove it,
I tell Ron all the time also that I know enough about the topic to be dangerous.
Yeah.
And but
so what do you think?
I've always followed the trends and followed the wave and could predict some things with it because it almost got easy to a degree. Mm-hmm. Me personally, I think that in January, I don't think we're going to make it that far into 2021. I'm saying January.
You're saying January?
We are going to find something out. I don't know how big it's going to be, but there is going to be something else that screams extraterrestrial or UFO happen in January that will be like a little bit more, probably, I'm going to use the word grounded loosely, but I think it'll be a little bit more grounded, and it'll be something that'll possibly be a little bit more palatable. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense to the general populace, than Galactic Federation. But it will be in the same kind of wheelhouse. Okay.
Right. So you're saying a major announcement sometime around
major announcement very early in the year. I'm saying January.
I think
I'm gonna telegraph that by saying I think it's gonna happen before Inauguration Day.
I don't know. You might be right. I'm still leaning toward middle of January, but we are January, and there's a reason we're January. And I want to see how close we get to this. It's kind of weird because, like I said, we've called this game up to this point. everything's fallen into line, which is weird and kind of scary, actually.
A little bit.
Just a little bit scary when you turn on, the news, or you get on Facebook and you see, oh, geez, we got that right. We're not, we're not future tellers. We're not, some kind of psychics. We are watching trends, and it's the same thing you can do. Just watch trends, okay? Because if you watch the trends, you can see what's coming next, and that's kind of what you have to do. And try to keep your belief system down. It has nothing to do with belief. It has to do with what's actually being shown, and then you have to look back at what you actually have gathered all these years and really investigate that and say, well, does this fit? Unfortunately, the Holloman thing, for example, now fits. I have to actually put that into it and say there's a little bit more evidence for this now, right? So it's kind of the same thing you have to do. It's not a matter of belief. It's a matter of constant trying to prove or disprove this stuff.
So with that said, everybody, we're going to wrap up tonight. If you want to catch up with backlogged episodes, head on over to wildandweirdwv.com. Hit the podcast tab. You'll be able to go through our entire catalog of episodes. We almost got a year under our belts now, guys, so there's a ton of stuff to catch up on. You can listen to us now, I think, for roughly, 2 to 3 days straight. And
why would anyone want to listen to us that long?
Have you heard the smooth, soothing sounds of our voice, Ron?
Oh, yeah.
It is pure gold. And if you want to go and check out some of the other stuff that we do, you can head on over to wildandweirdwv.com's shop tab and hit the shop link. You're going to see everything that we've got out there in all these various avenues. You'll be able to take a look at that. And then, lastly, stay wild and weird, everybody.
And folks, in case you couldn't understand due to the horrible accents on tonight's show, if you would like to get a full transcript of this show, please write Joe or Ron. Leave Wayne out of it at wildandweirdwestvirginia.com.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, guys.